Well, the central government has now acknowledged that parts of India are appearing to enter into a second wave of coronavirus. This as the Prime Minister is meeting chief ministers to closely look at the COVID-19 situation. Now, as this meeting is taking place, there are 28,900 new cases that have been reported in the last 24 hours. The states of Maharashtra, Punjab, Karnataka, Gujarat and Tamil Nadu continue to drive up the numbers. Collectively, these states now account for about 71% of cases in the last 24 hours. Maharashtra alone accounts for over 61% cases. Let me break down India's COVID trajectory for you at the moment. So like I said, there are 28,903 new cases that have been reported in the last 24 hours. Why is this worrying? Because this is the highest since December the 11th, 2020. So essentially, it is the highest number of cases that have been reported this year. Let's take a look at India's COVID curve and let's just focus on this area at the moment. It is this bell-shaped curve right here, which is what is the main cause of concern, because like I said, around December the 11th, sometime around this time is when India had reported around 30,000 cases, and cut to today where we are seeing once again over 28,000 cases. So this is the India COVID curve, that the way it looks right now. Now, here's to put these numbers in perspective for you. If you just look at the month of March, if you just look at the last 7 days, on the 11th of March, India had reported 22,800 COVID-19 cases. Cut to the 17th of March, where we are reporting 28,903 cases. So as you can see, there has been a steady increase in the last 7 days as far as India COVID numbers are concerned. More worrying news, there's also been a steady increase in the daily deaths over the course of the last 7 days, with India reporting 188 deaths in the last 24 hours. Well, what are the states that are actually contributing to India's COVID surge? The Health Ministry has stated that 84%, yes, 84% of new cases are coming from just 6 states. Maharashtra continues to remain the biggest cause of concern. 17,800 cases in the last 24 hours. Out of India's total tally, the Health Ministry now says that 61% cases are from Maharashtra alone. So Maharashtra alone accounts for over 61% of COVID-19 cases. Kerala, Punjab, Karnataka and Gujarat are also worrying news at the moment. Remember, there have been night curfews imposed in Gujarat, even parts of Madhya Pradesh for that matter. Delhi also has once again reported over 400 cases in the last 24 hours. But the 3 states of Maharashtra, Kerala and Punjab are the worst hit states. These 3 states together in the last 24 hours have contributed to 71% of India's COVID cases. So this is just to put in perspective the numbers. There's also a worrying story as far as deaths are concerned, with 87% new deaths being reported, 87% of India's deaths being reported from 6 states. Maharashtra once again has seen a surge of 87 deaths in the last 24 hours. Punjab, Kerala, Chhattisgarh and Karnataka also seeing an increase as far as deaths are concerned. Now, I want to also get you up to speed with the vaccination tally. Now, there have been over 21 lakh vaccinations that have happened in the last 24 hours. So, ever since that one decline that we saw as a result of the Mahashivratri festival, more or less what you can see, India's total number of vaccinations are continuing to look good. We did, however, remember peak here at around 30 lakh vaccinations that took place, and yesterday in the last 24 hours there were over 20 lakh vaccinations that in fact took place. So this is a bird's eye view of the numbers, the way they stack up. But like I said, the Health Ministry has now warned that India in fact could indeed be entering its second wave of coronavirus. Everything that you need to know, all of these numbers analyzed. Well, we have Dr. Hemant Deshmukh, the Dean of the KEM Hospital, joining us from Mumbai to make sense of these numbers. We also have Dr. Rachna Kucheria. She is an epidemiologist joining us. Thank you both very much. Dr. Deshmukh, I want to first ask you, Maharashtra continues to remain a cause of concern. Over 61% of India's cases at the moment are being reported from Maharashtra. What are you witnessing on the ground? Is this indeed the onset of the second wave, like the centre says?
Definitely. Initially, in the last month, we thought that this was not the second wave. It was small ripple within the first wave.
All right. Dr. Deshmukh, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Go ahead, sir.
Yeah. So what we were witnessing right now is initially we thought that this could be a ripple in the first wave. But of late, we are realizing that this is not a ripple in the first wave, but a mighty, scary second wave itself, which is starting. Though the figures are very well comparing with the figures of Delhi and December, sorry, not Delhi, but December. And the number of critical cases that you saw in December are not really as high as
Right.
March. Are definitely scary right now.
Okay, all right. The numbers definitely are scary. Dr. Ratna Kocheria, you know, we're putting out the list of the worst affected states at the moment. Maharashtra, of course, is the biggest cause of concern. Maharashtra, Kerala, Punjab, Karnataka, Gujarat, as per that graphic on our screen at the moment. The centre has not minced its words when it's saying that people must be cautioned and advised against this very well being the second wave in India. How are you analysing these numbers at the moment?
Thanks for having me, and absolutely agree with you and the previous speaker that the graph is going upward. Whether we are seeing less numbers in certain other states, even Delhi, but even for Delhi where I work, the graph is steadily going upwards. And some colleagues who work in the area are predicting that by the end of March, we'll have about 50,000 cases if we look at the trends that we have currently. So certainly we are in a upward surge pattern right now. And as I've said on this channel before, that the course of the pandemic is in our hands. I know we're all tired. There's deep pandemic fatigue, and I speak for myself as well. But we have to learn to, beat the virus, work with the data we are getting, and be proactive. So we're seeing an upward swing.
Yes.
I think it's in all our hands, all the public hands.
Dr. Deshmukh, if I can just come back to you, and Dr. Kocheria, I will come back to you on these numbers as well. Many say that, and one death is deaths too many as far as COVID-19 is concerned. We have to try and save each and every life. But many at this moment say that the second wave, and if we are indeed at the onset of the second wave, it is likely to be less deadly, leading to less severe infections. How are we drawing these conclusions at this stage?
Yeah, what we are realizing is though the mortality and the case fatality ratios are very less this time, this is the fact that probably the vaccine has started working from 16 January. The virulence of the virus is also probably going down. At the end of 1 year, that is March 2020 and March 21, what we are realizing is the entire virus that is happening, the virus or the virulence is definitely the mutation is going on. Any virus in the entire world is likely to mutate all the time. And so this mutation is definitely causing a different kind of coronavirus and a different kind of COVID presentation altogether in this March 21.
Would it be, Dr. Kocheria, in your view, premature at the moment to assume that the second wave of COVID-19 in India, which the central government has said is here and we're at the onset of the second wave, is going to be less deadly? What do the numbers prima facie suggest to you at the moment?
So the early numbers suggest, and remember, this is also how viruses generally behave. We saw this with influenza, that over time, the viruses, they can get more contagious, more infectious, but they tend to lose virulence. And we call this influenzization of the virus. And if we look at the numbers before, our case fatality rate, the percent of people that were dying who were infected by the virus in India generally hovered about 1.5 to 1.6% over the past year. And in this current new surge, new wave, call it the second or the new wave, since March, I think what we are seeing is about a 0.65% case fatality rate. So if those numbers are to be held at, and numbers speak for themselves, I think that there may be, we could see a loss or a reduced virulence, but that doesn't mean in any way that we have to let our guard down. As you said earlier on, one death is death too many, but this number definitely needs to be continued to be tracked, and we need to keep a close watch on it.
All right, so COVID deaths in India highest since the 15th of Jan. COVID cases in India highest since the 13th of Jan. The centers warned that this could be the onset of a second wave of coronavirus infections. Dr. Deshmukh and Dr. Kucheria, thanks so much for sparing your time and joining us with your perspectives. Well, the other big question at the moment, of course, is vaccination. It is really a race between the virus and the vaccine. And in good news coming in, the EU Health Authority has said that there is so far no indication that the Astrazeneca vaccine in fact causes blood clots. It has urged countries to keep using the vaccine after many countries, remember, suspended the distribution of the Oxford AstraZeneca vaccine. There are over 20 countries currently in the world that have suspended the use of AstraZeneca vaccine, fearing that it causes blood clots. We're putting out a map there of the number of countries that have actually temporarily suspended the use of the vaccine. However, the EU Health Authority has made it very clear that the benefits of the vaccine actually outweigh any risk that may be associated with it. Well, joining us on the broadcast, we have Dr. Veer Pushpak Gupta. He is joining us live from London at the moment. He works with the National Health Service. Thanks so much, Dr. Gupta, for being with us on the broadcast. You know, it's heartening after the WHO, now the EU Health Authority has also said that the AstraZeneca vaccine, you know, the benefits of the vaccine outweigh the risks. Yet, there are over 20 countries in the world which are seeing a rise in COVID-19 cases but have suspended the vaccine. How do you see this impacting our fight against the pandemic?
Yes, thank you for having me on the show, Rishika. Look, let me just go back to where this all started from. So there were a few isolated cases in Denmark, in Norway, and in Ireland where young people who got the vaccine were seen to have blood clots after getting the vaccine. And after that, there was this absolute, craze of fear that spread across Europe, and then countries started banning it. But let's look at the facts. The WHO did an emergency meeting yesterday. They sat down with health officials from all over the world. They reviewed the data that was there for this vaccine. The European Medical Agency did the same thing. And what they found was that the risk of this vaccine giving you blood clots is actually lower than the risk of getting blood clots in the general population. So I'll give you an example. If any person, say you or me, in the general population has a risk of 1 in 1,000 people of getting the blood clot. So that means 1 in every 1,000 people have a general risk of getting blood clot. The risk in the vaccine is much lower. So only 40 cases, as per the AstraZeneca review, have been known to have blood clots out of 17 million doses given. That is a risk of 0.0002%. compared to a risk of 0.01% in the general population. So the vaccine actually decreases your risk if you look at it in that way. And if you think about coronavirus as a disease, which has now become a thromboembolic disease more than anything else, then you actually have an added risk of getting blood clot with COVID than you do compared to getting the vaccine. So the vaccine would actually protect you from getting those complications.
Well, Dr. Gupta, I think that's very important perspective. When you put that statistic into context, it's extremely important information, especially for viewers here in India and, of course, in the UK and all those countries that are using the vaccine. But, look at that graph that we're putting out on our screen at the moment. One graph talks about the COVID trajectory of cases in the EU, and the other graph, in fact, talks about the vaccine trajectory. And if you see, in the last 1 week, there's been a decline in the number of vaccines that have been administered across the EU. Does this worry you? Do you believe that this is a setback to our fight against the pandemic at a time when we're trying to inspire confidence in COVID-19 vaccines and urging more people to take them?
Absolutely. Not only does it worry me, Rishika, it also worries the European Medical Agency, who came out and told countries like Germany, countries like France, both of the countries, including Ireland, which are seeing increase in numbers. They have lockdowns going on, and yet they have suspended the use of this vaccine. Now, we have been using this vaccine in the United Kingdom for the last 2 months. India has been using this vaccine quite extensively, and no cases have been brought up that are of concern or of alarm. And you can see the UK's numbers have gone down drastically in the last 2 months. So the vaccine works. There's no questions about it. The questions on its efficacy and its side effects should not be considered and compared to the benefits that the vaccine gives you.
Yes,
and there's definitely way more benefits than the risk.
Very last question, and I have 10 seconds. All of these countries at the moment say that this is a precautionary measure. Do you believe this move will quickly be undone now that the European Health Authority as well as the WHO have cleared the vaccine?
Well, yes, unless they can bring up some concrete data to show why they are banning the vaccine or stopping it, I think that the WHO and EMA are quite good authorities to make decisions on the fact that the vaccine is safe. Okay. And if they have said so, then I would not be worried about getting the vaccine.
All right. Well, thank you so much, Dr. Gupta, for sparing your time and being with us on the broadcast. It is indeed important perspective that you've lent. The vaccine is safe and you can, in fact, go ahead and get yourself vaccinated. We're going to slip into a very short break at the moment, but on the other side, we'll get you a live update from Berlin. How really are people in Europe looking at the temporary suspension of the Astrazeneca vaccine? All the details on the other side. Stay with us. Welcome back. Let's now get you the latest from ground zero in Europe. We have Thomas Sparrow from the DW who joins us live from Berlin. He's been tracking the impact of the Astrazeneca vaccine being temporarily suspended. Thomas, I want to ask you, Germany recently cleared the Astrazeneca vaccine for use in the elderly. The WHO too has repeatedly expressed confidence. Why then has the vaccine been temporarily banned? What are experts saying?
German officials did indeed approve the use of the Astrazeneca vaccine for people aged over 65, in which was a reversal back then, because previously Germany had only authorized the use of the AstraZeneca vaccine for adults between 18 and 64. That decision had to do with the fact that German officials did not have enough data, enough information to decide whether the vaccine was effective on older people. The decision to expand that approval had to do, on the one hand, with new information that they had received, but also with growing pressure that German officials have been experiencing in recent weeks because of Germany's very slow vaccination rollout. It's important to stress that only about 8% of Germans have received one coronavirus vaccine, which is slower than in other countries like the United States, the UK or Israel, and even slower than other European countries. And this also explains why now the decision to temporarily halt the use of AstraZeneca vaccine could pose serious challenges on Germany's vaccination rollout, as well as in the rollout in other European countries.
Well, you know, this move of suspending the AstraZeneca vaccine is likely to damage vaccine confidence even further. It could even cost lives. How does this decision impact the immunization effort across the EU at the moment?
Well, confidence and trust are certainly very important words when we're talking about vaccinations. And for the German officials, for European officials as well, bringing transparency and presenting these results that will be known on Thursday can actually help to bring transparency and create trust on the coronavirus vaccine, in particular the AstraZeneca coronavirus vaccine. But those who are against the decision to halt the use of AstraZeneca say that it creates confusion and it affects trust on the AstraZeneca vaccine. Now, when you ask about what all this means for the vaccination rollout, it's important to stress some of the questions that are being discussed in Germany now. One is, for example, what will happen to the doses of AstraZeneca vaccine that have already been delivered to Germany but have not been used. We're talking here of about 1.4 million AstraZeneca doses. A second big question still in the discussion is what will happen with people who have already received one dose of the AstraZeneca vaccine, but we're actually waiting for the second one. Can they receive, for example, a vaccine from another supplier? And the third one is what it will mean for Germany's timeline. As I already stressed, Germany hopes to offer every adult a possible vaccination until the end of the summer. And there are questions now, what will this actually mean now that the AstraZeneca vaccine has temporarily been suspended?
All right. Well, those are extremely important questions that need answers. Appreciate you, Thomas, for joining us with the very latest. Now that the European authority has approved the vaccine, one hopes that it will inspire more people to go out and get vaccinated once the temporary suspension is in fact lifted. Well, and finally, we want to leave you with some good news. Images of a 108-year-old resident of Chennai, Nana Venkataraman, her 83-year-old son and 54-year-old granddaughter all received their first shot of the COVID-19 vaccine at the MGM healthcare facility in Chennai. Also, we had pictures from Delhi of a 107-year-old Mr. Keval Krishnan, who was vaccinated at the Fortis Hospital in Okla in Delhi. Indeed, pictures of hope, with those above the age of 100 even receiving the COVID-19 vaccine. So go out, if you are in the category that can get vaccinated, go out and get your vaccine.